Did you hear Picard only works for level 52 and below? I think he works even less than that, to be honest. Let's go look at the new officers, right? Let's go look at our new 4 people right here. So we got Mira Kira. Her captain's ability boosts Apex Barrier each round for 5 rounds cumulatively. So again, she's adding 1500 plus whatever you're getting from synergy. Actually, we should do this from stfc.space so we can see what the synergy bonuses are going to be. So we got Mira Kira. Also, thank you to Pedro for renewing your subscription for 18 months now. So she starts at 1500 and she gets synergy bonuses from everybody. Also worth noting, and I don't know if any other officers have this, this ability does not trigger when Tal is assigned to the bridge of your ship. I think that's the first one I've seen that specifically excludes Tal. It's an interesting little wrinkle there. And she gets an extra 1500 per side for synergy there. So you could get up to 4500 each round for 5 rounds cumulatively. So by the end of it, you're looking at what, 22,500? And 10,000 is 100% damage mitigation. So you've got over 200% damage mitigation if I'm doing that right. That's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. And then you've got her other ability down here. Against players with Assimilate, Kira increases your shots by 15%, which then scales up each round for 5 rounds, also cumulatively. So they're going to stack on top of each other. So you get 15. So round 1, nothing, because you have to do damage to them for Assimilate to trigger with the below deck officers. I think Data does it too. We'll get to him in a second. Then you get round 2. If you trigger Assimilate, now you get 15% bonus to your shots. The way it Scopely rounds, that might not actually do anything. If you have her tiered up a little bit, 25, 30% might be enough to round up, depending on how many shots your particular weapons have and what ship you're using. But then round 3, now you're stacking on top of that. Now it becomes, 40, 50, 60%. Okay, now you're rounding up and getting those extra shots. Round 3, round 4, round 5. If you're still alive, you could be getting a nice little bonus. So Kira is the only officer being auctioned through weekend spend events, is Kira. Data, his officer ability, he's now available through the store. On round start against players, he's got a 45% scaling up chance to just apply Assimilate to them for 2 rounds. So if you have Data in an officer capacity, he can just give you the bump right off the bat. You don't have to wait until round 2 for your lower deck officer, Dezok, to have a chance at triggering. You could double up, right? Since they're both, 45, 50%, depending on where you've got them tiered to. Put Dezok below deck with the lower deck people and Data, and then hopefully between the two of them, you come up heads and get yourself some of that. So there's definitely some crews here to work with. The other one we got Mirror Troy. So they all have, Troy, Data, and Esri all have a specific, when you're fighting against a particular type of ship, you get a bigger Apex Barrier bonus. So if you know what you're going up against, if you know, like, oh, I'm going against this guy and he's got a big, Enterprise D. Well, that's an Explorer, so let me make sure I, throw Troy on as captain to get a bigger Apex Barrier bonus, and then I can go slap him around. And then she's going to boost your energy weapon damage. So if you have a ship like an Explorer that tends to use more energy weapons, again, look at your ships, look at your firing patterns and things like that. Some ships have multiple weapons with multiple firing patterns. figure out where you're going to get your bonus from. And Esri does kind of the same thing as Troy. When you're fighting against battleships, do something, and she boosts kinetic weapons. So they're kind of the same officer. It's kind of like Talon and Chen, right? Depending on what you're fighting against, or like the Strange New Worlds rares, depending on what you're, what type of ship you're using, and then possibly fighting against which one's going to help you more. And that's which one I would suggest be the one that you target to try to unlock with your tokens. If you're buying the battle pass and if you're doing enough of the events to actually get them, because I'm hearing that's the only way to do it. So Brett thinks that Kira might not be worth even doing spend events for, and Carissa's thinking Kira might be the new captain for the meta events. So she's just boosting it against any ship. You're getting 1,500 each round for 5 rounds. And the other one people were using was Picard. Picard just boosts your isolytic cascade damage with his captain's ability. Well, I guess that's a thing, right? If you pump up the damage, is it enough to overcome whatever Kira's doing with the barrier? Because it sounds like, if this is right, every 100 apex barrier increases the damage you can take by 1%. So if you're getting 10,000 apex barrier, it's an extra 100% additional thing. And Kira with synergy gives you 45%, 450, which is 45%, right off the bat in round 1. So by round 5, when she's stacked at max, you've gotten 225% more damage that you can absorb. That seems, on paper, like this would be the way to go, but I'm sure might be one of those things where, can you live long enough to even do that? If they're hitting you with Picard with all that extra isolytic damage, can they kill you in round 1 or round 2 before she really even gets going and ramps this up? So there's a lot going on here with these new officers. And then the 4th new officer that we got was another Picard, because we didn't have enough of them yet. This is a rare officer that is part of the same group as all of the commons that you get when you start a new account on this game. The next gen crew, the cadets basically. His captain's ability increases your apex barrier by 4,000 against non-armada hostiles, works against hostiles level 35 and under. So he is only useful for lower level players farming him. Lube threw out the suggestion earlier, which I liked, is that his sourcing should be added to the cheap little standard recruit bundles, which I think is a great place to put him, because those are most of what those types of people, those lower level players, are using to recruit officers. So slap him in here with T'Pring, Stonn, Barrett, and Lieutenant Picard, and then people will have a way to source him early in the game, because that's the only time he's useful. And if you put him in here in the premium bundle, well, he's just going to get lost in the shuffle and nobody's ever going to get him. And by the time you actually get him unlocked and maybe even get him to a tier 2 or tier 3, you're going to be past the point where I'm not hitting level 35 hostiles anymore. I'm hitting bigger than that. By the time you're level 28, you're punching up pretty high. You got that first Saladin and whatnot, you were going to Taiga Core and you're killing 39s and 40s. So by that point in time, we're not using this Picard anymore. So he's got to be accessible cheaply or freely to lower level players. And he's going to have a huge impact because he's giving them a 40% bonus right there. And if you pair him with next gen, officers, next gen Crusher and things like that, you're going to get an even bigger bump right there. So you're going to take very, very little damage by having this guy here. And then he's also going to throw in some extra shield health as well. So even if they do hit you, the shields are just going to absorb, be able to absorb more of it. So it should make moving through the early stages of the game faster to get more players through the teens and 20s, not sitting around waiting until they have like a maxed gen or anything like that. It's just go. Just get this Picard and just run all the way to 35. So the question's going to be is where is he going to be? How is he going to be sourced? Because if he's not sourced very easily, it's a waste. Why did you even make him? Right? He's just a waste of an officer. If it's like, oh yeah, you can buy him. Well, players who are in their teens and 20s, a lot of them aren't spending a lot of money yet. They're still trying to figure out the game and where they should be buying stuff at, and or spending money on packs so they can move up faster, so they can get to those better ships. And they're going to get the 35. Like, you can get the 35 in under 6 months without spending a dollar. That's what I did did that 2 years ago, and it's even faster now. You can probably get there in 4 or 5 months now. You can get to 34 in probably 4.5 months, and by 6 months you probably have that epic G3 epic built. At which point in time you're not killing 35s anymore. So if this is an officer who has a shelf life of less than 6 months of use, how are you going to get him to players? Is kind of where I'm stuck on, and where they need to make sure they've got a very clear and quick path to acquisition. So, what do you guys think about the officers? Hope they keep the PvP loss points in those PvP systems. 35 and under, worse than I thought. Yep, he's not that good. He's very limited. Jerry thinks it make way too much sense for Scopely to do that. Yeah. But then why make him, I guess, would be the other point. If you're not going to make him easily accessible to players quickly and easily, then why make him?